guys, what's up, and welcome back to my channel. So truly today we are having another one of those conversations, the types of conversations that not only can I not believe we're having, not only can I not believe we're having again, but one of those conversations that is so surreal that if I were telling anyone but you guys, they'd be like, there's no way. And then I'd say, well, welcome to our corner of the internet. I don't know, that doesn't sound too good. The corner of the internet we noticed, let's call it that. So I was scrolling on Twitter the other day and I saw this video. Now, because I am the way that I am, I bookmarked it because I was like, I might want to talk about this. Then I blissfully forgot about it. Today I went back to my bookmarks and oh yes, here we are. Brace yourself. Oh, one last thing. To be clear, I think the majority of things we talk about need context. In this particular case, I think we see enough that I cannot really imagine any situation in which context would change the meaning of what's happening unless the context was make the most deranged claims you can come up with. Here you go. And then they cut that off and this conversation starts.
Just let me interrupt. Yeah. So you think that having sex with a 9-year-old is justified?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that so here, let me ask you a question. Okay, is the problem with
I'm asking you a question.
Well, I have to frame it. Okay, so if you have a problem with child marriage because you think it is categorically wrong, or is it because it's conditionally wrong?
Well, I'm asking you the question.
Well, I want to understand what your understanding is.
So I'm already troubled. Now, this is a thing that I've seen often, and I think that's one of the great things about grad school is that you can really tell when someone's about to bullshit. Now, you also learn how to bullshit, potentially, depending on what classes you take. We've talked about this before. A lot of things are nuanced, not that many things are black and white. However, we come to one of the few things that, in my opinion, are black and white. If someone is below the age of consent, and then even with the age of consent in some countries, I'm not gonna get into that. But if someone is 9, like in this example, there's no consent. That's not a discussion for me. And what I was gonna say about grad school is that a lot of the times when people start bullshitting, and you've probably noticed this yourself, is that they'll ask a very specific question before elaborating or giving you an answer on something. But so many times that question does not pertain. Example, for me, someone raping a 9-year-old, because that's what it is because there's no consent, is wrong in any aspect. Universally, okay? It's not conditional, it's not categorical, it's universal. It's beyond categorical for me. Universal, I'm just gonna use that. There is no situation in which I see any reason for that to happen. There is no justification, and I think most level-headed people would agree with that. But this is a trap, and I know a trap when I see one because this little thing of, well, is it conditional or categorical? It's details, dude. If we're gonna say it's wrong to rape someone, anyone, let alone a child, I don't really think that needs a lot of elaboration. There's no little asterisk that says, except no. It's wrong. End of. So already the fact that someone is trying to make this big distinction where there really is none, and also I think it's particularly heinous to ask if there's a condition under which essentially a rape is okay. Like, you realize that's what you're... This is the most depraved, perverse shit I could ever think of, that someone's gonna try and come up with circumstances under which it's okay to do that to a 9-year-old.
Because I think that the Prophet, peace be upon him, his marriage to Aisha was at 9 years of age.
21.
So do you think that I don't think that that's wrong. I can explain it and justify it, and I'm trying to give you the entire anthropological explanation, the historical explanation of that. But like I said, it can't be done in 5 minutes. So I want to simplify it and say, do you think that this is categorically wrong, or is it conditionally wrong?
Categorically wrong. Like,
okay, so if you think that it's categorically wrong to have those kinds of relationships, do you think that other kinds of sexual behavior can be categorically wrong?
As long as it harms somebody, as long as...
No, if you mention harm, then it's not categorical. It's conditional based on harm.
But the category that you're introducing is a category that will be harmful in all situations in that category. That's why
how can you, if you specify conditions, then it's conditional, it's not categorical.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
So as we can see, there's the continuous going back to conditional or categorical when we've said that it's categorically wrong according to this man, and for me, it's universally wrong. There's no condition under the sun that you can find for me to say that it's okay. But regardless, a lot of this also centers on religion. Now, what I'm going to say about that very, very briefly, I don't want to comment too much on religion because, first of all, it's not something I'm particularly knowledgeable about. Like, yes, I was raised Christian Catholic. I dissociated myself from that. That is where most of my knowledge lies, which isn't even all that much in my opinion. So I'm really not going to go into historical texts and shit like that. But I will say, if we're going to live word by what the Bible or other texts say, we have big problems. I can't remember all of the rules specifically. If you guys are of a certain religion, you can bring them up. I remember, was it cutting your hair? Tattoos definitely aren't okay. Like, there's so many things that do not pertain to our world anymore. And I think it was fucked up back then to have child brides, as is mentioned here. It's still fucked up now. Like, it doesn't change for me that it wasn't the Bible, so automatically it's okay. Truly not. On the contrary, it alarms me more that we have religious texts that have that because, well, I don't think I really have to explain that. So I don't understand the purpose of using religious texts, mainly because here, they're almost being used as historical texts. It's like the things that some people say of like, oh, well, 10 years ago, nobody would have had a problem with this. And it's like, yeah, there were really fucked up periods of history. And just because they happened, it doesn't mean it was okay that they happened. The same way that wars happened, it doesn't mean we need to be chill with wars happening again. So this whole thing of, oh, well, that was a different time. Yeah, but it was a different time is more about like bell bottoms and like the mustardy color that people wore in the 70s. That's when you can use the excuse it was a different time for bad fashion decisions or things akin to that, in the sense of they don't traumatize people, ruin lives, put in motion really fucked up precedent. We're not going to use this was okay 1,500 years ago in a book that may or may not be true with people who may or may not have existed. We're not going down that road.
You didn't really answer the question.
Yeah, because I wasn't. Because you want me to bring up like why you want me to explain why it's okay, why it's not okay to have sex with a 9-year-old? Like
in a particular social context, in a particular historical milieu,
I mean, to me, that
yes, it can be something that is moral and is acceptable. I can agree with you and say that within this particular context, if you take a 9-year-old who is still watching, Dora the Explorer, and it has, that kind of cultural background, you describe it.
Aisha was
the word child is anachronistic.
If you're talking
if
about
you want to talk about that, that's something that was practiced throughout history, across all religions, across all cultures. So the problem that you have is not with Islam, it's not with the Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. It's a problem with all of the past.
I condemn.
You condemn all of the past.
All
That's the problem
child
with modernity.
rape. I condemn them all. And if you're thinking about the child mentality being different in different situations, remember that according to the Hadith, Aisha was playing with dolls right before Muhammad raped them.
You have 35-year-olds who play with dolls in this day and age. They're Star Wars fans, Star Trek fans. They have action figures. They play with them. That's
So you can rape them.
It's not rape. Okay, you just throw around the word rape whenever you want to, or terrorism, willy-nilly. I don't take that as serious academic analysis.
If you want, we could dedicate another 5 minutes just to that. If you want after this, but I have other questions for you as well. But let me reset this.
This parallel, the absolute irony of this man saying, "Oh yeah, that's not an academic analysis," dude. Talking about 35-year-olds with action figures, collectibles, or whatever, compared to a 9-year-old playing with dolls. You think that's an academic analysis? You think an academic council would read that and say, yes, this makes sense, this is logical thinking, with examples coming from where? Oh yeah, the Bible. So also, let's not get into the fact that he mentioned harm being conditional with the 9-year-old being raped, or the potential 9-year-old being raped. What is conditional about harm happening there? I don't want to get into too much detail here because I really don't think it's necessary. I think we all can understand. But if we're just going to talk about physically a child's body, how is there no harm there? Let alone the mental harm. I mean, I cannot believe people film themselves saying these things and then 6 months later come crying about why their career failed somehow and have these sob stories. And it's like, bro, you go on shows and you say that raping a 9-year-old under certain historical context and circumstance and condition was okay and made sense. Like, you could say it was commonplace. You could say it happened often. You could say a lot of things that are just facts. Because yes, it happened. Child brides happened. In the Middle Ages, the ages of people becoming wives and mothers was fucked up. Yes, that all happened. That does not at all back up an argument that it was ever okay. I'm gonna stop. I'm just riling myself up here and I've said everything I need to say. I don't even think I really had to say too much for you guys to know where I stood on that one, but I cannot believe people have the audacity to come out and say shit like this. I'm just gonna leave it at that as I look into the distance and wish I could disappear into a wall. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think this is probably like the last straw argument that people use, like resorting to religion or things that aren't factual, like medical journals, like scientific proof? Do you think that that's pretty much the last straw of like, this is the last thing I can use to try and justify this thing that's completely fucked up and unjustifiable? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Anyway, catch you guys next time.